What's up out there? We are going to take a look at 4 different Cyclone builds. Since I came back to PoE 1 in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing nothing but Cyclone, and that's kind of following up with two ideas that I had for this league. The first idea was when I started 325, I wanted to go through all the different ascendancies, and up until my Berserker, I had tried, up until I showed that Berserker the other day, but up until then, I had all but 3 ascendancies at least started, at least something going for them, to a degree. The Berserker I had left, the Assassin, and the Pathfinder. I have all 3 of those set up with Cyclone builds, and they're all out of the campaign. I just finished the Assassin off. I finished the, last night, I finished the Assassin off. I finished the Pathfinder off the other day. And then I showed off the Berserker version of this. I've got an update to that, so we're going to take a look at that as well. But then I've got this, which is a Necromancer. I had the Necromancer started, and I stalled out somewhere in the campaign, Act 3, I think it was. So I reconstituted this to get up to level 39. And you may be wondering why I'm looking at putting Cyclone melee build on a Witch, or more specifically, a Necromancer. Now, this idea was born from the Legacy of Freesia event that we've got coming up. One of the first ascendancies they announced was the Harbinger, and it's got something to do with channeling, and I thought, man, that sounds really cool. So on this side of the tree, and this I'm like not even out of the campaign. I have no idea what direction I'm going to take or what changes I'm going to make with this build, but this is kind of the stub that I've got with it. Cyclone is a channeling skill, and you also have cast while channeling, and you've got minions and everything over here. So Necromancer gets a lot of minion stuff. So I thought, well, I looked around for spells with minions on them, and we've got Absolution, and I kind of liked Absolution, so I wanted to tinker with that. And I'm at the point now with this build, like I took this in Act 3 that was some whatever half-ass build that I had going that I kind of just tore apart. So it didn't really even have anything, like I don't think I had weapons or gear or anything on. I had to go reconstitute this and get it going. And I've since taken it through and got my first ascendancy point with it. And I'm ready to go start moving forward with this as a Cyclone build, as a proof of concept for what I think I want to do with the Harbinger. And I'm not exactly sure which one I want to start for the Legacy of Freesia event, but this is kind of a proof of concept for that. At any rate, so we've got this. We've got access to a lot of minion stuff. Wands, I thought wands would be really cool for Cyclone because we've got wand nodes right here. However, wands do not work with Cyclone. I think they count as like a ranged weapon or something, so I'm guessing bows don't work. So you have to use anything that's not that, like claws, daggers, I think scepter, staves, axes, swords, all that kind of stuff. I got an axe on this for the moment. I don't know that that's going to stay there. This just gave me the most damage, so that's why I have this. But the cool thing is you get access to, like this here, Commander of Darkness. Auras from your skills grant 3% increased attack and cast speed to you and your allies. That means, I don't know if that's each aura or what, but I do run auras, so that gives me increased attack speed, which is great for Cyclone. You want it to go faster. You also get you and nearby enemies deal 30% increased damage, which is also really good because that bumps up my damage as well as whatever minions I'm going to have out. And then you and nearby allies have 30% to elemental resistances. I saw that. I was like, hey, that's really cool. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff on here for like minions and stuff. I've also got, I made sure to come over and grab Spiritual Aid, like right off the bat. Once I got the build stable and working, I came over and grabbed Spiritual Aid so that increases and reductions to minion damage also affect me. That means that I get, I don't think I get like 60% damage off of this. I don't think I'm double dipping on this Ascendancy node, but I don't know if I can test that. But at any rate, I don't think I'm double dipping on this. I think it's just a straight 30% and that's fine. But all the other minion stuff that I do with this will give me damage. And we've got Herald of Purity and Absolution. So let's go take a quick look at this build real fast. Just see it in action, actually doing something. Let's see, I need to go over here, I think. Just do a little quick run of it. Again, this is still in the campaign, so it's fairly early on. I don't know how my damage is doing right yet. Am I going the right way here? I got this thing cleaned up and actually working to to where I don't run out of mana. Yep, looks like we're still getting decent mana. So it's working, it's casting spells, it's doing what it needs to do. It needs a lot of refinement for sure, but this is more of, like I say, a proof of concept. So I've got a bunch of minions out. We've got 7 different minions out, and it's kind of interesting. You know, this stuff auto casts with the absolution. I don't have to worry about, I don't have to cast. Where am I going here? Totally lost. Skip across to that. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool proof of concept, and I'm interested to see where things go when we get the Legacy of Freesia event. Actually, I'm going to probably try to work on this a little bit and see if I can't get it through. We've also got access to Energy Shield on this side of the tree and everything, so it's kind of an interesting way to go. I'm just using a tabula rasa just to try to get this thing off the ground, so I don't have like any concept for how this is going to turn out. It's just kind of bastardized and thrown together. I was able to put the Eye of Cheula on so that I cannot be stunned. That solves a little bit of a problem. But more to come with this build, and definitely more to come once we get to the Legacy of Freesia event. So let's take a look at the one that I completed last night, which is the Assassin. This is the Assassin version I've got going for Cyclone. I decided to go into claws on this one, and there's a lot of claw nodes on this side of the tree. This one felt really good to go with poison. When we look at my Pathfinder, I actually turned my Pathfinder into a poison build right at the very end of the campaign. Those last 2 areas that you go clear out before you fight Kitava is when I switched that one over to poison. And I saw how well that worked over there, so I thought, well, Assassin's got nothing but poison on here. 40%, Noxious Strike, 40% chance to hit, 5% poison duration for every blah, blah, blah. Recover life on poison. I'm also going to start going into a little bit into the crit part of it. I picked this one up last night, so I haven't really tried this out a whole lot. I may need to focus a little bit more on crits or something. I don't know. I haven't quite got there yet. And this is kind of another build. This one I started from scratch. So level 1, I started it off, built it up to be Cyclone. This isn't one I had to pick up and reconstitute or anything. But I wasn't really sure where I wasn't sure where I was going to go with this. And none of these builds, I don't like pre-plan anything. I just basically come in here and start putting stuff together and seeing where it ends up. And this is basically what I've put together is this. I went with claws on this one, so I'm going to probably keep an eye out. I know I could probably make better claws or something like that, but these do pretty decent damage, 117 to 286 and 67 to 234. I might try to keep another eye out for this Vol one. You gain phasing on using a Vol skill. I've got a whole bunch of Cyclones, Vol Cyclones on my Berserker build that I'm leveling up. I may try that here and then tinker around. There's an Ascendancy coming with the Legacy of Freesia that has something to do with Vol skills. That sounds really awesome. I may tinker around with something on that. I'm not sure, but this has been very cool to put together. The poison damage is kind of ridiculous. I happen to have a 4th Vow that I got and 6 linked earlier this league, so I threw that on here. This is not necessarily the armor that I want to keep using with this. I think I want to go with evasion and energy shield, not armor and energy shield. This is just what I happen to have, stuff that I could throw on here. Not min-maxed. I mean, I've been using a lot of uniques throughout this whole thing, and this is basically just enough to get me through the campaign, doing some decent damage. Got 27,000 tooltip DPS, which is actually pretty decent, clearing the campaign. This is the first map that I've been running, and as usual with all of my builds, I have survivability issues and, the whole host of everything. I need to work on this and do a lot better with it, for sure. Getting the mana solved was one problem. I don't think I have to worry too much about stun on this. I don't have stun immunity here. I don't remember how I'm getting around stun. I think there's some chance to avoid stun or something like that. But at any rate, we've got a bunch of stuff for spell suppression, movement speed. There's 50% chance stun and block recovery, plus 30% chance to avoid being stunned. I think there's some other stun I've got on here somewhere, chance to ignore stun or things like that. Focused in on claws. We've got a whole bunch of stuff with poison, some chaos. We've got growth and decay. I'm coming over here to increase life and energy shield. And then we've got dark arts, chance to block spell and attack damage while dual wielding. I went in here. There's a lot of chaos resistance you can get over here, so I went into that for all that. Just kind of a quick overview, just to get this one. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about all these different builds. There's a lot to talk about, and I could make this a very long video, but I wanted to just at least show this one off. It's through the campaign. It's playing really well. I'm very pleased with this. And like I said, when I started this off with my, let's see if I don't die with this. When I started this off with my Pathfinder, when I got Pathfinder into poison, it was kind of interesting to see. Yeah, see, we're taking a lot of damage in here. I think I've got my resistances sorted out. I think. Not sure. I'll have to check on that. Oh, you know what? I beat the campaign, so now I probably don't have resistances. I literally didn't look at it. I beat the campaign and then went to bed, so I don't even know where I'm at with my resistances on everything. I'm probably low. Yeah, so I'm going to have to work on that. Like, I literally beat Katava and then closed the game out and went to bed. But this is really cool. I need to rebalance all my gear, and you know, now I'm leveled up enough where I can start equipping better stuff. But I need to rebalance on this. Assassin version of Cyclone is crazy. This thing does a lot of damage. I was looking at, not Withering Step, there's some, I can't remember what it's called. There's something with, whatever it's called. Something about you gather poison up and you turn this skill on, it builds poison up. I don't think I have it on anymore, but whatever it's called, I tinkered with that for a minute. I may revisit it. It was dropping my damage down while it was empowering the poison or whatever it was doing, so I just kicked it out. But I may revisit that. That seemed kind of interesting. I don't know where else I'm going to take this. Once again, I just got this through the campaign. It's been going along fairly well. I just need to get it, you know, up to level 80 or 85 or something like that to really dial this in as far as gear and everything. But I'm happy with the claws. I'm happy with the poison. It's been very cool to try out. So let's go take a look at the Pathfinder. Okay, on the Pathfinder side, I started off and went into Nature's Adrenaline so that I would gain flash charges every 3 seconds. And I wasn't really sure where I was going to go after that. I ended up going into Nature's Boon for this increased magic utility flask effect and everything. And I played the campaign for the most part with, I started off with a sword and shield because I grabbed this node here, which gives you a chance to block while dual wielding or holding a shield. And this one, I thought I was going to run into more block nodes with shields and stuff like that. I did not, so I ended up switching over to a two-handed sword for a while, and I played that through the campaign for a little bit. I went into Precise Technique for a while and spent some time over there. Then somewhere along the line, I switched over to daggers and came over, dropped Precise Technique so I could pick up backstabbing and do increased crits and stuff like that. So now I'm running these daggers, and I need to do some more min-maxing on this build. Like this 6-link is just an armor energy shield 6-link that I happen to have. I want this to be evasion and energy shield. Anything on this side of the tree, we're going to do evasion and energy shield. In fact, I would put evasion with anything with Cyclone anywhere I'm going. But on this side of the tree, I want to try evasion and energy shield, not armor. But this happened to be the 6-link that I had available. I need to go farm up some more evasion gear or something like that. I don't know. I kind of got this into where it needs to be. And this is kind of where it's ironing out. We're level 71. We've got, I don't know, came down here for Fleetfoot, got some stuff for Leech, for mana, Life Leech, things like that. There's a lot of attack speed, increased damage, global accuracy, movement speed, all that kind of stuff throughout here. There's a lot of attack speed or movement speed along the way that I've picked up. And I started picking up some stuff for poison damage, things like that. We've got Fangs the Viper over here. We've got Sleight of Hand for one-handed weapons. I need to see if Entropy's better. I don't know. I might want to go down this route. I'm not sure. I need to actually spend some time with POB on this. But at a proof of concept, getting it through the campaign and everything, this one's doing 38,000 DPS, and got a couple things we can level up here. Let's go run into this map real quick, and let's see how this one runs. I think this one, when this one got through the campaign, I think towards the end, I was basically doing not enough damage, but moving too fast, if that makes sense. Now it seems to, like, I think my damage is starting to pick up a little bit, and this is starting to get a little bit better. And I'm not running into the issues that I was running into. Basically, I was moving so fast that I would blast through a pack of monsters, and I wouldn't hurt them all that much. Like, I'd take a little bit of life off of them, maybe take half their health off or something, and then I'd be gone because I had so much movement speed. I felt like I needed to actually tone this down a little bit in the movement speed department. But turns out I just needed to bump up the damage. Either one of the two, either slow it down or get the movement speed moved up. And since it started with the poison and everything, I've started doing a little bit more damage, and it's actually starting to feel a lot better. And you can see it's just kind of blazing through everything. But this is a different poison than the assassin. I mean, it's all poison, but like it's functionally a little bit different. It's not quite the same feeling to it. And it's kind of interesting. It gave me the proof of concept that, hey, poisoning can work for Cyclone, because I was kind of stuck on Cyclone just being a physical damage. Like, I didn't think about pairing other things off, like poison, or maybe we could do elemental or something like that. I don't know. I got some things. I got other ideas that I want to try out. Like I don't think I've ever done anything with my Hierophant, so I might try Cyclone on a Hierophant at some point. I don't know. We got the Legacy of Freesia event coming up, but this was very cool. One of the things that I want to do whenever I come back and revisit this is rebalance the way my potions work or my flasks work, because there's a lot of flask nodes over here, and there's all kinds of stuff with flasks. Like, I could get this to increase the magic effect of flasks. Or I liked this where the Master Alchemist would remove elemental ailments when you use a flask. I'm constantly using them. That was where I was going to go. But then when I went to the poison direction, right at the very end of the game, I figured out, hey, they got Nature's Reprisal and Master Toxicist. So when you kill a poison enemy during any flask effect, nearby enemies are poisoned you inflict during any flask effect have 20% chance to deal 100% more damage. So this really makes this thing work a lot better. So I was kind of surprised at that. I thought this would be more of a flask potion type thing rather than a poison build. But then as I got into this and I started going through my ascendancies, like I picked these two first. And then when I got through the campaign and switched it over to poison, I was like, all right, I got to go over to these and just try these out. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go. Master Distiller, no, because this is a channeling skill, so I can't use this. But I could do like Nature's Boon or something like that, maybe go into Master Surgeon. I need to figure out how Master Surgeon works. But at any rate, Pathfinder, good. I like this. This is a lot of fun. Cyclone's very versatile from what I'm finding. So let's take a look at the Berserker build. I did spend some time with that, and I did add a little bit to it. And finally, we have the Berserker build that I showed off the other day. I've made some changes to this, refined a few things. I don't remember exactly, because I've been spending so much time with all these other builds. I don't remember exactly where we were. I'm pretty sure that I had points into Brinksmanship and the Tribal Fury. We'll come back to these two in a minute. I basically pulled this stuff off. Brinksmanship gives you melee skills have increased area of effect. It doesn't increase your damage. And I think my AoE size is pretty decent for this one. So I ended up pulling those points out. I think I moved over here to Vengeance. So every rage grants 1% increased armor. We start off with 10,000 armor. I think I get like 35,000 armor by the time everything ramps up, but it all has to ramp up. And I'm not sure I like that. I mean, that's the Berserker playstyle, I suppose. But at some point, I also leveled up a few times, robbed some points from some other things, and I picked up Cloth and Chain and Golem's Blood, so I've actually got some life, and I've got a little bit more resistances and evasion. And because we're using Iron Reflexes, that converts all evasion into armor. Once again, once all this stuff stacks up, ramps up with the Granite Flask, the Jade Flask, and the Basalt Flask. Once all this kicks all the extra armor and evasion in and all the conversions, we get a decent chunk of armor. It could be better, but this is kind of where we're at with this one. I also finished off my 4th Ascendancy point to get Defy Pain, so you gain Defiance. This gives you 25% increased armor per Defiance, so this is another thing that ramps up, so you start off with no armor, and then you kind of ramp up from there. But then you get at 10 defiance, you take reflected physical damage equal to maximum life and then lose all defiance. And I never really thought I would ever use this, but I ended up pulling some points off and coming back into Bastion Breaker. I pulled out of this one and then back into it because I needed to get the 60% reduced reflected physical damage taken because I'm going to take a big hit and I wanted to reduce that. So we're into there. And let's see, as I level back up, we're at level 89. So the next few levels, 90, 91, 92, and 93 are going to go back towards slaughter so I can gain rage on hit, increased attack speed, blah, 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 increased damage with axes and stuff like that. As this stands, the build is doing, I think, slightly over 1 million DPS. Right after I did that video, the last video for this, I had it doing like 1.4 million DPS, somewhere in there. But I had to rebalance some things because as I got further into the playing, I started dying a lot more. And I just didn't have the survivability. So I had to start focusing more on stuff like Golem's Blood and Cloth and Chain. And I dialed the damage down and I'm back ramping damage back up. So we'll go back into Slaughter at some point. I typically get these up to level 95 and I'm not sure where the last couple of points are going to go, but this is kind of where I've got things. We're also gone into frenzy charges. Now, as I was looking at this the other day, I was working on this. I had a second version of this axe. Do I still have it? Yeah. So I had this Comms Primacy, but this one was corrupted. I took this in Act 2 or whatever. You get that corruption deal where you can go double corrupt or whatever it does. It's the story thing. I think I took this this axe into that part of the story and got that corruption on it, and that's why this is sitting here. But because it's corrupted, it's stuck. I can never use any more links in it, or sockets. It's just basically that's that. And I didn't really give it any thought. But then I was looking at this the other day, and I was like, well, I basically have 2 full 6 links, and I know I could probably do a better axe. I'm not at the point of trying to swap gear out right now. I'm trying to refine what I've got into more survivability and figure out how this build rounds out. So I was looking at this and I was like, you know what? I basically have an entire 6 link just sitting there doing nothing. And I thought about cast when damage taken for a little bit. I tried that and it just didn't seem to do much. And I didn't really like what it was doing of whatever it was doing. It just wasn't. Anyway, I tried some other stuff out and I wasn't happy with what I found. So I started looking at skills. What do I have available? And that's when I found Rage Vortex. And I was looking at that and I was like, that is perfect because this sacrifices a percentage of rage to create a Rage Storm if you have at least 10 rage. And then Rage Storm deals 10% more damage per 1 rage sacrificed. And Rage Storm has plus 0.1 meters to radius per 2 rage sacrificed. Rage Storms hits 250% more frequently, and you can only have 1 of these things. So I thought, you know what? This is actually perfect because I'm using an axe. This is an axe based. I think it says in here axe. I thought I just saw that. But at any rate, yeah, spin with a sword or axe to deal damage. So at any rate, I'm not using this as a main attack. Like I suppose I could use this as a main attack. I'm using Cyclone, and then every once in a while, just throw this thing out and keep going. So basically, let's go run something here. Something short and sweet, if I can get that click to click. So basically, you're going to be moving around with Cyclone, and as we ramp up rage, we can fling one of these things out if it fires off. I don't always get it to fire off. There's like a timing thing, like you have to stop moving long enough to make this thing go or hold the button or something. I still haven't quite got my timing down with it, but I thought this might be good for bossing. So if I can ramp this thing up, you know, I could throw this off. I can work on thicker uniques. You know, I get something that, or rares, get some weird essence monster or something. You can toss one of these things out. It's just extra damage and it's costing me nothing. I'm building up the rage alongside of it anyway. I think this is probably one of those rare cases in this game where you can actually have 2 main skills that kind of complement each other. I don't think we see that too often in here. I don't know. I kind of like it. It's a little bit awkward because you have to stop, throw the Rage Vortex out, but I'm building up rage so quickly that even when I throw the thing off, it comes right back because we're generating a lot of rage. This axe generates 5 rage on hit. And then once I get back into slaughter, that generates gain rage on hit. There's a bunch of these other ones. Somewhere in here, I've got a few others that gain rage on hit. There's max rage, gain 1, gain 1. So we're gaining like 7 right off the bat. And I think there's 8. And then there's some max rage, and there's another gain 3. So we're gaining like 10 rage every hit or something like that, some ridiculous number. Now, I was looking at this and trying to figure out if I needed to go over here into Veteran's Wrath so I could pick up, you gain 3 more rage, 3 more rage, so I could have a total of 60 rage. According to POB, these extra nodes don't make a difference, so I don't have any reason to come down here and add to the max rage. So I would be coming over to this. I thought it would just keep increasing damage. I think it was going to at one point, but maybe because I added frenzy charges in, that's diminishing returns and it's just not adding anything to it. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I did look at this. I need to go back to POB and plot this out and see how it works. But at any rate, I didn't do that. I got some comments on or at least one comment on the last video about Tribal Fury and the non-vol strike skills. This is not, Cyclone is not a strike skill, which it's not. So these two don't apply. However, the plus 0.1 meters to melee strike range does count. If I'm reading the wiki correctly, if you go read Cyclone, I can't remember how it's phrased on the Cyclone part, but if you go to the page about range on the wiki, which one is it? I can't remember. The wiki page for range, I think, says that Cyclone can use this. And then when you go to the Cyclone page, it tells you how it uses it. So this says plus 0.1 meters to melee strike range. This is not a strike skill. However, with Cyclone specifically, plus 0.1 meters to melee strike range translates to plus 10% to the size of the Cyclone. I think, if I'm reading that correctly, you get like a 10% increased size. Now, on POB, if I put, and this point gives me 12% increased melee damage, so that one counts no matter what. This gives me 10% increased melee damage, but with the plus 0.1, I go from like 2.7 meters to 2.8 or something like that, like you would think it would. If I put the point into this one, I don't go to 2.9 or whatever my current strike range is, or melee range, whatever it is. But this does count, and I presume it's because it's a percentage, it's not hitting the threshold to go to the next number. So that's why the first one does count, but the second one doesn't. So theoretically, these can be used to increase the size of the AoE, but I think this AoE is fairly fine. This is, I don't know, this is comparable to the Jug version I've got, which has a bunch of endurance charges making the AoE bigger. I don't know how, like, you're not going to get a screen clearing AoE off of this or anything, but I don't know. I was pretty happy with the way this build has shaped up. I've got some points to go into, get it moved up. And I liked adding the Rage Vortex. So I really like how this build is shaping out. This is potentially going to be my league starter for whenever the never-ending league gets over with and we actually get a 326 league. I might league start this. I did do I started it, got him into town on SSF. I've played a minor amount of SSF this league. So I've got like no currency. I don't have any other twink gear to use with it. I want to take this and try to actually league start it and see how this feels in an actual, no currency, no gear, no nothing. I want to see how this plays because you have to get into like the middle of Act 3, I think it is, before you can even get Cyclone and put it on. So you're basically starting off with something else before you're leveled up enough to even equip Cyclone. So I want to try and do a league start, but we've got the Legacy of Freesia event coming up, so I'll be doing that. But this might be my league starter. This thing does serious damage, and as I've got it built now, which is obviously on twink gear and all that other stuff, but I think this has got some good potential for me as a league starter, and that's kind of one of the things that I was trying to figure out with this whole league setup, with this league and trying all the different ascendancies, is to find something that I like that I could league start, and that would be my build, going forward for a while. So this may be it. I'm going to give it a shot. I like where it's at. I like the concept of this. It feels really good to play right now, and I like where things are with it. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.